Hey everyone, this is I, along with my teammates Avril and Leshna, and we are here to present you CodeRun. CodeRun is an extension which you can use to run code directly from your browser without having to set up any runtime environment. So, how did we come to learn and make about code? So, I happened to run upon this idea when I was going through a GitHub repository and I saw a piece of code which I wanted to run, but I did not have Java installed in my system. So to run that piece of code, I had to install OpenJDK, had to clone the repository, and had to then make a binary and run the code. So we thought, how come we can make this process even simpler? How can we run this code directly from our own browser without having to set up the environment and the SDKs? And hence, we came upon the idea of CodeRun. So CodeRun becomes your all-in-one extension where you can run any type of code without having to set up the proper environment for it. Presently, we support only three types of languages, which are C++, Python, and Java, and we hope to extend upon it further in future. So let's run upon a simple demo. So here we have the three codes of C++, Python, and Java in a single file for simplicity so that we can show it easier. So let's check out the C++ code sample. So what we'll do over here is we'll copy the code and we'll press the proper key binding. The key binding in this case is Control D. As soon as we press Control D, you can see we got a alert, and now we're gonna run it through our extension. As we run it, we get the output. Let's do the same with Python. The Python code isn't a hello world, so we can show some diversity in the code. Let's run it again, and the output is as shown on the screen. Let's do the same with Java, another non-hello world code, and let's see its output. And so the processing is the same, and hence we see the output. Now let's look at another perspective from which a person can edit the code. So let's go to the edit button of the extension. As you can see, we have our three tabs where we can select the languages, Python, C++, and Java. Let's select C++, copy the code, and let's run it. And we see the output over here. So we have a couple of other features in it, as you would have seen earlier. We have automatic language detection in the extension, so that you can detect the language automatically, and you can without having to continuously reselect your language, you can directly run the code. You can also enter the input to your code, like if you have any. This is especially useful for people who take part in competitive programming contests or for code that requires specific inputs from the user. And apart from that, you can also have like code edition directly in the extension without having to open any other editor such as VS Code or similar things in your PC. And so this was the overall preview of our project. So let's tell us what we learned during the hackathon. So what my work was, I had to make the browser connections. I had to make the Docker extensions along with it, and have the Docker driver and runtime installed. I also had to make sure that we were running all the correct commands in a bash script through which we are controlling our Docker containers, and each file was handled correctly, and we did not have any errors while running the extension. Now Avril and Leshna will be telling their own contributions as well.
Hi, I'm Avril from Pod 2.0.1, and I worked on the project CodeRun along with Ayan and Deshna. So I worked mainly on the front end part, that is writing manifest and trial.js for extension loading into Chrome. And I did some work on the pre-processing of the code. Our extension takes the code and compiles it for the languages C++, Python, and Java. So there was some pre-processing involved with how to channel that code through to compilation and work it through our backend. So I worked with that alongside Ayan.